Go.
Right, so Rob's given us a Christmas present of a lacrosse ball, and we thought we'd do a CM2 mobility WOD. And I'm just going to make a video to help you improve your shoulder flexibility. And something I've noticed when we see people's shoulder dysfunction, there are three main points that can really help people using the lacrosse ball. So the first point is between the shoulder blade and the spine. And we've got this big group of muscle, the rhomboids, that join the shoulder blade to the spine. That seems to be tightening up in a lot of people. But more importantly than that, under the rhomboids, we've got tiny little thoracic erector spinae that join the one vertebra to the next, but also the ribs to the spine. And I've seen a lot of people, if those little nitty-gritty erector spinae are tight, that prevents a glide of the shoulder blade around the rib cage. And it just prevents that shoulder getting back into an active position and an externally rotated position because the shoulder blade can't glide freely over the rib cage. So the first point with the lacrosse ball will be right in these bits here, right between the shoulder blade and the spine, and I'll show you in a little while. The second point is to get into these rotator cuff groups. So the rotator cuff is a group of muscles that acts like a claw around the ball and socket. So we've got four muscles. You can see three of them from the back. And one comes, the infraspinatus comes from the shoulder blade round to the ball of the ball and socket. There's one that comes over the top, and then there's a smaller one that attaches just to the outside of the shoulder blade. Teres comes again round the side. So the point that you'll be getting in with the lacrosse ball is actually under your armpit, quite far on the outside of your shoulder blade. And you know you got it because it bloody hurts, and it'll be kind of in this point here. You can get into the supraspinatus, the rotator cuff on the top, but it's actually easier to do that in the gym on an Olympic bar rather than with the lacrosse ball, but I'll show you that as well. And then lastly, something that a tight muscle that can keep the shoulder in an internally rotated position, which is not what we want. We want to be able to get our shoulder into an externally active position, externally rotated active position. A muscle that keeps it internally rotated can be the pec minor, which attaches to the front of the shoulder blade and then comes to the upper three ribs. So the way you'd find that is kind of in the crease of where your shoulder meets your pec, your chest, and you get the lacrosse ball right into that, and you know you've got it because it's tender. So we'll go 1 between the shoulder blade and the spine, 2 on the outside of the shoulder blade, just tucked behind your armpit, and 3 into the pec. These are the best lacrosse ball workouts that you can do at home. So, first of all, laying on the floor, you've got to wriggle around a bit. You're aiming for those points, I can't reach, between the shoulder blade and the spine. And what we're thinking about is the rhomboids, but more importantly, those tiny little nitty-gritty muscles around the rib heads and trying to help the shoulder blade glide over the rib cage. So, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. The key thing, the really important thing, is keeping the elbow straight and trying to practice getting your arm externally rotated. The reason we're doing all this is to help us with our snatcher and our overhead position and our kind of getting into a locked out position overhead. So we've got to not just practice getting our arm there, but it helps the neurology, it helps teaches our arm that it can get there. So I'm going to focus on keeping my elbow straight, keeping the arm close to my ear, and use a little bit of momentum. So you can use a bit of speed. Come on, come on, come on, and then off again. Come on, come on, come on. And as soon as I get to a point where my elbow starts to bend, that's as far as I go, and I'll come off again. So I can keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, but that's my limit. I've seen people where they can only get to here, and then their elbow starts to bend, and that's fine. But don't start cheating and getting higher with the elbow bent. If you can only get here with the elbow bent, not a problem. Just come off and just work into that barrier where you start to feel yourself wanting to cheat. So yeah, just kind of keep going through a few repetitions. I sometimes support my head so I'm not straining my neck. A few repetitions, and what you're waiting for is it to feel easier. That tells you there's been a tissue change. So keep going, it's horrible, and keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually you're starting to work into those barriers, and you will feel looser afterwards. And the key thing is just focusing on that elbow, keeping it externally rotated, keeping everything close to your ear. Second one, into those real horrible things, those real horrible points on the outside of the elbow, shoulder blade, and they're super tender when you get on them. And so we're aiming at the infraspinatus and the teres. So again, you can wriggle, you're more on your side for this one, super tender in there. So I'm going to apply a vector straight down into the floor, so I'm pushing my body weight into the floor to engage the muscle. They are rotators, which makes you think that you can spend a bit of time with the elbow at 90 degrees, rotating one side to the other. This is really good. They are rotators, so taking it through rotation helps. But I find sometimes when you do that, you're actually slipping off the muscle, you're slipping off that really tender bit. So if you push, it doesn't make too much sense, but if you just open your arm, close it, that seems to work as well. But you're staying right on that tender spot. So I just spend a bit more time doing this, but do whatever works, don't worry about playing around with it. And you can spend the right time with rotation. And again, what you're aiming for is for it to just feel a little bit easier. That's the tissue change. So, the pec minor, into that crease. So you just need to find an upright. So at home it can be a door frame. Get your arm in there. Actually, I need to do that now. So get your arm in there, get the tender spot, roll around till you find that really tender bit. We're aiming to really tuck into the ribs and the gap between the ribs and the shoulder. And you can either just make a punching movement and push forwards. You can get into that and arm, elbow at 90 degrees again, rotate through it. And that's, yeah, again, horrible, really nice. And wait for the tissue change. You know it's a change because it feels easier. And then, yeah, you end up with, let's see, you end up with slightly better extension and externally rotation. It's much easier for me to have that left arm now that I've been working on it in a locked out position in an externally rotated behind my head. There's actually probably quite an inch or so in that. Let's see. Yeah, it's not bad. What I was going to say for the supraspinatus is it's really awkward to do this at home. So it's better to just wait till you get in the gym and put some weight on a bar, really lock into that kind of trapezius and back of the shoulder blade, and just, again, trying to keep your elbow locked and in an externally rotated position, just work into it this way. It's a bit awkward to do at home. And that helps keep the freedom of the upper rib, the uppermost rib as well, which helps get that shoulder into the next externally rotated position. So I think that's it for the shoulder.